You might have heard that Palestinians are often referred to as refugees, or certain places in the Gaza Strip are referred to as refugee camps. The funny thing about those refugee camps, such as Nusayrat for example, is that when you look into those cities, they are not camps, they're not made up of tents or anything. They are regular cities, regular buildings are there, apartment buildings. These places are settlements that consist of regular apartment buildings, regular homes, shops, and even luxury. Generations of people have lived in those places, and they are still referred to as refugees. What happened is that in 1948, when the Arab side started an offensive war, an extermination war against Israel, much of their population left the places that they lived in along the borders, with the hopes that once the war is over and Israel is completely destroyed, they would go back into those places and would also take the rest of Israel and would settle wherever they want. Of course, the war didn't go as planned. Israel won the war of 1948 and then expanded its borders in a defensive war where Israel fought for its survival and then rightly refused to take back many of the people who left the places where they were living. The idea was that it would be absurd to take back a lot of people who were seemingly part of the plot to exterminate Israel. It wouldn't be safe. So Israel expanded its borders and also secured the borders and the settlements significantly in order to have proper control and proper safety and prosperity. Since then, many people in the Gaza Strip and outside of the Gaza Strip among the Palestinian diaspora refer to themselves as refugees, and they officially have United Nations refugee status. But for example, those who live in certain refugee camps, which are just regular cities in the Gaza Strip, inherit generation after generation a refugee status, which gives them the false hope that one day they will return to the places where their grandfather lived, for example. They are promised that this right will somehow be restored to them. But Israel has no intention to restore such a thing, because there is nothing to restore. The problem is that as long as this refugee status exists, there is an ongoing conflict and an ongoing false hope and false motivation that people can continue fighting because one day they will return to one of those lands across the borders. If that refugee status, protected by UNRWA and the United Nations in general, was eventually shut down, much of this conflict would end. But the problem is that this refugee status is kept alive just to fuel the conflict and to keep it going, not to resolve it, not to help people. It's time to put an end to it. There is no such refugee status. It's time to accept the consequences of past actions.